Hey everybody, welcome back to Horror Trans. My name is Stephanie Bree. I'm a transgender woman and I discuss all things horror. And I know I've already done a couple of videos where I've laid out movies I'll never review. So you're probably saying, Stephanie, you said you weren't going to do the Universal Monster movies. I did. But mostly my reason for not wanting to discuss the Universal Monster movies is because they're the Universal Monster movies. Like literally every horror YouTube channel and podcast and documentary and literally everybody who talks about horror talks about these movies. What am I going to say that hasn't already been said? You know what I mean? But I decided, you know what? Maybe there are young people out there who come to my YouTube channel who don't watch those other people. And they want my thoughts. They want to be like, hey, should I invest my time in these 100-year-old movies at this point, nearly 100-year-old movies at this point? Or should I just, start with the 70s when horror actually becomes legit and go from there? That's a good question, and I kind of want to answer that question. So I went back and watched the Universal Monster movies. Now, I had already seen Dracula a while ago. Watched it on, I believe it was Peacock, but don't quote me on that because I'm not 100%. It was a few years ago when I worked at the TV station and actually made really good money and could afford all the streaming services. But I don't work at the TV station anymore, and I don't make that kind of money because, COVID and shit. But anyways. So I watched Frankenstein for the very first time like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I've got thoughts. So, first thing I'm going to say right off the bat is I did enjoy this movie for the historical context of, okay, this is where horror started. This is what people were terrified of in 1930-something. My grandma wasn't even a zygote yet. So there's no chance in hell I was going to be exposed to this movie, when it was actually scary. Because it isn't scary. At all. By today's standards. If you've seen Casper the Friendly Ghost, this movie's no longer scary. Casper is scarier than this movie. But, allegedly, supposedly, it was so scary when it was made, they actually had to put a disclaimer at the front of the movie saying, hey, if you don't think you can handle it, now's your chance to walk out. Which I think is weird that they did that. Because, one, the movie isn't even that scary. And two, were they really going to just give people their money back if they walked out saying, ew, gross, gruesome, scary, frightening, or whatever? I don't know. I guess. But, let's talk about the movie. I have never seen any Frankenstein movies aside from Lisa Frankenstein, which I watched like a month ago. I've never seen any Frankenstein movies. I've seen, Frankenstein was in, and I'm calling him Frankenstein, assholes. Listen. Okay? Listen. It's Bride of Frankenstein. It is not Bride of Frankenstein's monster. It is Son of Frankenstein. It is not Son of Frankenstein's monster. It is Frankenstein meets the Mummy, not Frankenstein's monster meets the Mummy. It is Frankenstein meet the Three Stooges, not Frankenstein's monster meets the Three Stooges. Alright, so eat shit if you're going to come at me with it's Frankenstein's monster in the comments. No, it's fucking Frankenstein. Everybody that's ever lived is called the monster Frankenstein. It's fucking Frankenstein, goddammit. Get over yourselves. Alright, now that we got that out of the way, Frankenstein was in Monster Squad. And that's what I know him from. Besides, pop culture references, Frankenberry and, appearances in, Scooby-Doo and shit like that. So I have never actually sat down to watch the movie Frankenstein. I was a little disappointed that the iconic scene that we've seen referenced a bajillion times in literally every fucking movie, TV show, comic book, cartoon, video game, literally every piece of media that has ever been made since has referenced that scene. And it wasn't what I expected. It was blink and you miss it. It was just there was literally no build up. It was I am God. Here's my monster. He's alive. And then fade to black, and then we're like it's Tuesday, and I was like, that was anticlimactic. But anyways, the things I do like about this movie, the set design is beautiful. Obviously, it's iconic, but the characters are rubbish, but they're fun. I can understand if you're looking at, hear me out. I can understand that if you're studying horror from a historical perspective and you start at the beginning, it would click in your brain like, okay, there has to be comedy, there has to be scares, there has to be monsters, there has to be social commentary, blah, 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 and then you check all the boxes. I can understand somebody watching this movie and getting that as, the template for horror. We don't necessarily follow that template today because, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Exorcist rewrote the template and said, no, this is how you do horror. And then we've basically just been ripping them off for the past 50 years. But the first 50 years was ripping this movie off. So, alright. It's got some bits in it that I'm not a fan of. I don't like old movies. I don't like the old classics, by and large. I studied film in college. I was forced to watch a bunch of rubbish just because of the historical context. And look, it did nothing for me. I wasn't alive then. And I've already seen better movies that did it better. Why would I be impressed by somebody doing it with fucking paper cups? The makeup effects in this movie are pretty good. I have to mention that. The lightning effects, the sound effects are pretty good. So like 75% of this movie is pretty good. The problem is the other 25%. So, the other 25% is the story and the characters. So let's start with the story. You know the story. Mad scientist digs up a body, zaps it with lightning, it goes, rampages the village, the villagers burn it alive. I'm not spoiling shit, you already know this. You can't live in today's modern society, watch horror movies, and not know that's the plot of this movie. There's just no way. It's impossible. I knew the plot of this movie before I fucking watched it. There were no surprises in terms of the plot. I already knew because I've seen The Simpsons. I've seen Monster Squad. You know what I mean? I've seen Scooby-Doo. You can't not know the plot to this movie. It's like so fucking pervasive. It's like you don't have to read a comic book to know that Superman is from the planet Krypton. Like literally, that's not a spoiler. It's just like, yo, everybody knows he's from Krypton. Everybody knows the plot of this movie. I'm not telling you anything you didn't know. But there are a couple of plot points that don't work for me. So let's start with the scientist guy is fired from the university because he wants to do experiments on human bodies. Now, this is a plot hole. He's fired for wanting to do experiments on human bodies by the department of head of the university whose job it is to do experiments on human bodies. So, fuck you, asshole. You get to do experiments on human bodies, but I don't? Eat shit. That's capitalism. That's bullshit. I ain't here for that. Fuck that. Alright, so that right there has me like, God damn it, fuck you. I'll chalk that under social commentary. Rich people are assholes. Alright, this movie definitely hammers home the rich people are assholes point. I'm here for that. Because the scientist guy locks himself up in a tower and digs up dead bodies with his Igor that isn't called Igor in this movie for some reason, even though it's Igor. I don't know, it's weird. He's not even called Victor Frankenstein, which is weird because like everybody knows, Victor Frankenstein created a monster with his partner Igor. So, right off the bat, you got two things wrong. And that's really confuddling to me. But anyways, alright. So, the B plot of this movie is his fiancée, who's a rich woman, blonde, supermodel, movie star type, is worried that he hasn't come home to finish the deal, tie the knot, knock her up, put her in her place. That's the social expectation at the time. She's sitting there, her biological clock, saying, I need a baby so I can go cook, meatloaf or whatever it is women did in the 30s. And the rich dude's dad is all, I'll take care of it, and does his rich dude's dad bit, and you get that B plot. And then they inadvertently unleash the monster. And I say inadvertently because the monster was tied to a table, minding its own fucking business. And the Igor stand-in, I'm going to spoil the movie here a little bit. The Igor stand-in goes to town and beats the living snot out of the monster. If you were paying attention to the movie up to this point, not Victor Frankenstein, whatever they called him, was an asshole to Igor, not Igor. And so the not Igor beats the monster. The monster defends itself, this is important, and kills the not Igor. And then later in the movie, the monster ends up killing one of the, one of the rich people. I don't remember his fucking place in the society. Was he the best man or the cousin or the uncle? I don't fucking know. Who gives a shit? It's rich people fucking their cousins. Who gives a shit? I don't fucking care about rich people, especially these kind of rich people. The people that are so rich, and this pissed me off. So rich that the entire town, seaside town, shuts down and has a party to celebrate the rich dude in town having a wedding. Eat shit, rich dude. I'm not fucking celebrating your goddamn wedding unless I'm invited and you're handing out, cash bouquets of $1,000. Alright, then I'll celebrate your goddamn wedding. Other than that, I don't fucking know you, motherfucker. Eat shit. So that part of the movie pissed me off. And I'm going into this movie knowing it's the time, this was when capitalism was everybody was it's the shiny new thing. Everyone's like, oh my god, the middle class, finally. Yeah, that didn't work out so well for us, but that's neither here nor there. We could mostly blame Reagan and his bunch of fucking idiots for that. Rest in piss, Ronald Reagan, and I hope you're choking on it in hell. Anyways, so the poor people are overjoyed the rich man is getting married so they can have a party. The monster escapes. I'm not going to get into the details, but you probably already know this. The monster accidentally murders a little girl. And it is an accident. And in movie logic that makes no sense at all, the man who was not present to watch the monster murder the girl finds the girl's body and just knows the monster did it. And so they form a posse to kill the monster. And they kill the monster. Obviously, you know where this is going. Roll credits. Now, there's two things that I have to point out in this movie that bother me. Legit bother me. Take me out of the movie and make me not enjoy it as much as I would have had it not been for these two things. The first thing that takes me out of the movie, there's no goddamn music. We already had the jazz singer. I'm pretty sure, The Wizard of Oz was in production at this time, or, there was buzz around it, and The Wizard of Oz wasn't the first musical in Hollywood anyways. So, they had music in movies at this point. Why was there no background music in this movie? It annoys the shit out of me. Because you can hear the breathing, the footsteps, the trees rustling. Yeah, you want some of that atmosphere in a horror movie, but you can also hear the gaffer sneezing. You can hear the microphone whooshing. You can hear their jeans ruffling against their pant legs. That shit you don't want to hear in a movie. You cover that shit up with music. There's no music in this movie. The second thing that pisses me off about this movie and takes me out of the movie is the Burgermeister, or the mayor of the town. As a character, he is walking around. He's the elected political official. You know, the democratically elected political official of the people. The representative of the townsfolk. And he is gushing over the rich dude. He's like, "Oh, rich man, tell me what to do, rich man." Fuck you. That is what's wrong with politics in the United States. The rich man, he should be like, "Bitch, I'm the motherfucking mayor. Don't fucking talk to me. I'm better than you. I'm above you. I'm the fucking mayor. You're just some rich dude. You pay my taxes. You pay taxes so I can eat caviar, motherfucker." No. This movie, the mayor is running around slurping on rich dude's dick the whole movie. Like, "Oh, yummy. Fuck you." That really pisses me off, takes me out of the movie. And I don't give a fuck it was 100 years ago and that was the time. I don't give a fuck. I don't want to fucking see that shit. I hate Titanic. Fucking hate it to the point where I want to punch James Cameron in the head with brass knuckles. Because that fucking movie makes me angry how it treats poor people and how it idolizes rich people. I will never suck the cock of rich people. They can eat cake. They can eat shit. They can eat a cake made out of shit. I'll donate the shit. So I'm not going to gush over fucking rich dudes. That ain't gonna fucking happen. That's one of the reasons why I don't like the Hollywood era of movies. Because they're all rich people celebrating how fucking rich they are. I don't give a fuck about historical context. I don't need to see that. I know the historical context. That's why we fucking have people on welfare today instead of earning a goddamn living. I know the historical context. I studied political science in college. This is why I didn't want to talk about the Universal Monster movies, because I'm going to nitpick them, and it's going to sound like I didn't enjoy the movie, or I hated the movie. But it's like, I can't talk about this movie without bringing this shit up. I can't. It's impossible. Now, let's brush all that aside now that I got it off my chest. Is this a good movie? Well, yes. I mean, I would be stupid if I said otherwise. There's no way I could argue this isn't a good movie. It's the goddamn template for how you make a horror movie. You know? It's the playbook. You want to make a horror movie? You study this movie. This is like, you know, this is horror 101. You don't make horror movies if you're not familiar with this movie. What about the things I did like? Well, I mentioned the set design, the makeup, you know, the characters that aren't named Burgermeister or Rich Dude. They're all good characters, you know. The monster is amazing. The Igor stand-in is, you know, I guess the comic relief, but also, you know, he's an interesting character. I am definitely going to rate this a buy, obviously. I mean, what else do you rate the Universal Monster movies? Like, you know, this is the foundation of a horror collection. If you don't have the Universal Monster movies in your collection, you don't have a horror collection. You just don't. You can't have a horror collection without these movies in it. It's impossible, because these are like the horror movies that started horror movies. It's like having a Spider-Man collection without having, you know, Amazing Fantasy number 15. Well, then you don't have a Spider-Man collection. You know, it can be a reissue, a reprint, I don't give a fuck. But you can't have a Spider-Man collection if you don't have Amazing Fantasy number 15. You just can't. It's impossible. It doesn't count. It's not legit. Same thing. You cannot have a horror collection if you do not have the Universal Monster movies in that horror collection.